Listen, I know you're on the toilet. I know you're drinking your food, eating your beer, maybe sipping on some coffee, but if you could, feel free to like and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Your comments are a sacrifice to the algorithm god, a god of which who cuts out hearts and rolls them down the temple steps. All right, gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, the Talking Balaclava. Yet again, the mood of the face wear depends on how well my hair looks. Today it looks decent. And today we're talking about blank guns. And I wanted to kind of talk about this because there is that big old no-no incident that happened on the set of Rust. And I figured we could kind of talk about it real quick. But before, let's kind of see what kind of damage a blank gun can do to, say, a paper target at point blank range. All right, so let's just kind of see what this blank gun does. Yet again, this doesn't fire projectiles, but there still is technically a release and expanse of gases going on. So let's kind of see what happens. All right. There's definitely like powder burns and stuff there that wasn't there before. I would happily say I do not want to be in front of that from point blank range, but nothing did come out and blow his face off. But there still is a safety risk and concern whenever there is stuff like this involved.
Gentlemen, this video is going to be sponsored by Apex Gun Parts. For all your Apex and gun parts needs, head on over there, let them know that I sent you. Fulfill your milsurp dreams and fantasies. Don't let your memes be dreams. Ask for a hug and a kiss.
Real quick, I gotta give credit to my buddies over at Area 15 for letting me borrow this blank gun for a video. They're a local gun shop here in the valley that specializes in Cerakote. Now they just started doing laser engraving, so head on over to them for all your Cerakote and laser engraving needs. I give out the worst shout outs. Still surprised that people want to send me stuff or let me use their guns. So quick thing about these type of firearms, well, not firearms, but these props, is they gunk up very quick with those blanks. So you might want to keep them clean. Now, I kind of was hesitant to talk about this, and I want to do it, respectfully because someone's life was lost. But, blank guns do have their place in cinema, movie, TV shows, and they do elevate the viewer's experience, right? I think it's some of the best war movies ever, Black Hawk Down, Saving Private Ryan, using blanks and those being so visceral of an experience because it was so well done. And they had big safety concerns, right? I mean, you gotta think, if you're bringing in a bunch of Hollywood actors, one thing that scares me is giving them firearms and with the potential of stuff coming out of said firearms. So there has to be a good layer of safety and mitigation that comes with that. So typically what I understand, and keep in mind, I'm no expert in the film industry, and so I'm not trying to speak out of line, but from my thin grasping of how it works is typically they'll have actors that are designated blank gun people, and then usually the rest of people will have rubber guns or prop guns like that. And they're kind of running around in the background, and you have your guys in the foreground firing off blank guns. To me, that sounds pretty reasonable, and I could be off, but whenever you're bringing on people and actors that aren't specifically firearms guys, there is a little bit of risk, so you do have to get them trained up. You know what I mean? It's the sad reality of the world where they specialize in acting and are much better on screen as opposed to I would be, right? I'm just on some big chimp on YouTube, but my thing is firearms, right? So I'd have a higher expectation of myself of handling firearms. Speaking to Rust, film accidents happen, but ultimately it's up to whoever handles that firearm. It's their responsibility. And I don't know how it'll play out litigation-wise in court, but in firearms culture and firearms dogma and just basic safety principle and rules, it is always up to whoever picks up the firearms to understand if it is loaded or not, to understand the status of your weapon. You always trust but verify for most things, right? If my best friend or my buddy is like, hey man, here's a gun, it's not loaded, we're gonna do some stuff with it. It's like, hey, cool, thank you for handing me a not loaded gun. I'm just gonna real quick do what's called a chamber check. And you just check the gun real quick, but if you're someone who doesn't know anything about firearms, you may not know how to do that, and that's kind of dangerous. And seeing a lack of education about firearms can cost people their lives. We see it all the time, even outside of the film industry. There's videos of people pointing guns at each other, and then guess what? That gun goes off, and some dude's head's now draining inside his car. There's a good video of that, and it's pretty gnarly. So that's kind of where we come into play within gun culture. Is I like to think of myself as a hardcore 2A advocate, where the Second Amendment exists to protect the body of citizens, right? And that each American has a duty to be well versed in many things, and firearms is one of those. We have a strong culture of riflemen. This is how we essentially got our independence as a country, as a bunch of rebel riflemen. So we have lost that, and you can definitely see the media having a big effect on that where it's just not as pushed anymore. It wasn't as pushed, and we were starting to see it more. I like to think a lot of the younger generation with them getting into video games, say they're getting into airsoft, the classic thing, then they get into firearms, right? It's usually the pipeline that it goes for gun guys. I know most of you either have that experience or some of you may just jump straight into firearms or maybe did it backwards. You know, it doesn't matter, but you got there. You got the understanding that your Second Amendment is one of the most sacred things in this country, and it's also a God-given right. It should transcend a piece of paper. I know we're going off on a tangent, and I'm just some dude on the internet that wears a neck gaiter and or balaclava, depending on his hair preferences, but it's just something that I hold my core value. Going back to the blank gun topic, you see it being lost, and you see it costing someone's life because that particular person wasn't well versed in firearms manipulations and handling and just said, hey, trust. So how I kind of see it is that if you are someone that watches my channel, then there's a high probability that you are an enjoyer or an enthusiast of firearms. And I hope you'd have a good grasp of firearm safety, weapons manipulation, and the do's and don'ts. So if you do get the chance, try and educate those around you that aren't as qualified or know as much as you. Right? Either your family members, your loved ones, your spouses. Try and bring them into the fold. You know, I'm sure there's going to be, for you people out there in the world with your normal friends, you know, there's probably going to be a good conversation that comes up if you do talk about the incidents that happened on Rust. I know it's a little bit more dated now. That happened back towards the end of October. It's still a really good, relevant topic to kind of show you that, hey, even though we thought it was a blank gun or a blank firing gun, you know, accidents can still happen and things can go awry, and that firearm safety comes into play. It's, you know, yet again, it's a tragedy. These things can be avoided with basic safety. And, you know, at the end of the day, if the court is ruled that, hey, it wasn't Mr. Baldwin's fault and it was, say, the fault of the prop master, because from what I heard that she was taking that gun out and using it on the firing range, which probably is a big no-no. And yeah, it's just tough, man. Yeah, I really wish that we as a society had a larger understanding of firearms and how deadly they can be. There should be a good fear and awe of firearms because they are ultimately tools used to end lives. And some people don't really grasp how dangerous they can be. One of my favorite things is when you see videos of dudes and they're on like at the indoor range and they're trying to shoot their guns and they're shooting, right? And nothing's coming out. Then they're shooting, nothing comes out, and they're like, huh. They're like doing shit to it, looking at it. They put their hand in front of it, like, why isn't this working? Like it's gonna shoot out air, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden they blow their hand off or blow a giant hole through their hand at point blank. So if you want to support the channel in any way, shape, or form, feel free to head on over to Patreon. Patreon's an excellent way to support the channel and patron the arts and debauchery of this channel. Merchandise, I sell merchandise on the website. Excellent way to support the channel, as well as help cover my costs. Really appreciate that. Supporting the companies mentioned in the video. As always, gentlemen, stay easy, stay breezy. Tell your dog I said hi. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to like cut when I jump out. All right, bad news bears time. Oh hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, the Talking Neck Gator. Feel free to like and subscribe, gentlemen. I know, here, let's do it again, I'm sorry.